are officially barred from secondary and higher education, a country of 40 million, stripped of half its intellectual future. To understand how such a tragedy unfolded, we must recall what came before. After the fall of the first Taliban regime in 2001, the new Afghan Republic rebuilt its schools with international help. Women hesitate to seek treatment from male doctors, and maternal deaths rise. Teachers lose their jobs, families lose income, and whole communities lose hope. Economists warn that excluding half the population from education will cripple Afghanistan's future growth. Human rights advocates call it a gender apartheid, a deliberate erasure of women from public life. For the girls themselves, the damage is deeply personal. In one account, a teenage student recalls the day her teacher told the class not to return. She cried all night, clutching the textbook she could no longer use. Another young woman, once a university student in Herat, now spends her days. But behind these claims lies the truth of political control. By confining women to the home, the regime remains dominated by hardliners for whom female education is a threat to their ideological purity. Inside Afghanistan, quiet forms of resistance continue. Informal schools operate in hidden basements, led by brave women who teach despite constant fear. Lessons are whispered, papers burned at the slightest knock on the door. In rural provinces, community elders occasionally defy orders, reopening classrooms under the guise of religious instruction. But these are exceptions, not the rule. The majority of girls remain excluded. The long-term cost is immeasurable. Every year of lost schooling deepens inequality. Each closed classroom widens the gulf between Afghanistan and the rest of the world. The nation's economy, already on life support, cannot thrive while half its people are denied education. Innovation stalls, healthcare detains. It asks what humanity truly means when a nation can erase half its people's potential and the world simply looks away. For the Afghan girls still waiting, their uniforms folded, their books untouched. Time itself has become the enemy. Yet even in that stillness, their longing to learn endures. It endures in whispered lessons. It endures in the memory of blackboards and pencils. And it endures in the hope that one day, the school gates will open again. When that day comes, the silence will break. Not just for Afghanistan's daughters, but for the conscience of the world. The Taliban policy of ban is contrary to Quran. The Quran repeatedly calls on all human beings, women and men alike, to think, reflect, and seek understanding. Began with a single, powerful command: read. Ignorance is condemned throughout the Quran, while the pursuit of knowledge is praised as a path to spiritual and moral growth. Classical scholars consistently taught that men and women were created to complement one another, equal in dignity and equal in their responsibility to learn. Within this Muslim framework, the right to education is not merely a social expectation, it is a divine mandate.